What's up, guys? So remember that video that I told you that I was going to kind of like show you guys, as some of you kind of commented that you'd like to see the extended version that was out of focus. Well, this video is actually that video, not this one, but after the intro. Yeah, it's like half edited, half like podcasty, because I was like, I might throw that on the podcast. But essentially, I kind of talk through how everything's changing and kind of bring you guys into my story and what God's doing in me and how that connects to his story and then how you guys are connected to this story. And so, yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed the video. Grab a cup of coffee, I don't know, something cool. It's a nice, chill Saturday watch. So I'll see you guys on the flip side. Yeah, peace. I feel like, let me start here. Over the last year and a half, if not two, so I graduated university in 2020, and ever since 2020, I think I've gone through the most transformational point of my life. Arguably, I spent literally the last 2 years figuring out what am I meant to be doing on this earth. And if I take you guys all the way back, I went to university in Leicester. I was very much who I am today, but I was a very different person. You guys would have seen, if you know me from YouTube, you would have seen the progression of my life where, yeah, I was just kind of really, really bubbly, and I still am. But like, there was lots of content out there. There was lots of different things I was putting out. And there came a day when I literally felt this urgency in my heart to like do a few things, which was, I asked myself this huge question, or whether it's a spirit in me. There was this big question about like who are you becoming? And that was heavy. And this question was so prominent at the time because whilst I was in university and kind of like being in this space where I'd been with a bunch of different people growing and this takeoff of the YouTube empire and this like content, and as this became kind of really relevant more than it already was, there was this fight that was happening in me, which is, all right, okay, what's important, what's the main thing, and what's even the point of a platform? And you know, I'd grown 50,000 subscribers at a time and like been growing over social media. I've done so many different things, and I began to ask myself this question about, okay, all right, I'm moving a lot, I'm doing a lot of stuff, but like, where is this all going to? What's the direction of my life? And I feel like this is really normal for many people, like many young people. If you're in university watching this, or you're starting university, like this is like a normal question. And I think the reality at that point, I did not have a lot of people to answer the question for me, because I don't even think anybody really has the answer. I think people just have kind of cues, and I think to some degree, like we're all kind of like becoming more competent with ourselves. But this was like interesting because like I was busy. I was really entrepreneurial in uni. I had a photography business. I was like, things were taking off, right? And then God tells me this thing in my heart that just makes me question everything and makes me want to review, like, who am I becoming? Who am I becoming? And this question has been so constant in my life because across the last 2 years, I got signed to an agency, and as amazing as that was, like being able to travel the world and work with brands and do so many amazing things, it still highlighted a big area of my life, which is like being a content creator is such a new thing, and I do it full time. Like it's my full-time job. It's one of my main streams of income, and it generates a good income, which is incredible. And I think over time, I'd love to share some of the open things about that. So if you have any questions about that, comment below. I'd love to make videos about these different things. But there's also this part of it that is very much like tent living. It's like, okay, so good, I'm making money, and this is good money, but when will it stop? And when it stops, who will I be? And over the last 2 years, or 3 years now, 2023, which is crazy. Whoa. We're at the end of 2023. Over the last 3 years, I've literally been asking myself that question. Okay, cool. All right, Josiah, you're doing cool things, and maybe to lots of different people, I've made lots of impact. But who am I becoming? Who am I becoming? And this question has haunted me, and to the point where like content became just hit a back foot, majorly because I genuinely believe in my life, like, it matters who I'm becoming. It matters who I'm becoming, and you know, I've been doing lots of evaluation of what my key metrics of success. What will it all amount to? What's the legacy? What do I find important? And you know, the more I've thought about it over time, I realized that I just want to be a really good son, and one day I want to be a good father, and right now I want to be a good brother. And those things kind of dictate the direction of my life to the point where, yeah, like I stopped making YouTube videos, not because I didn't want to, but like clout is no longer, like clout was never enough for my soul, but it was now never enough to continue to spend my soul in a place that brings more of an audience to me, for me to experience just the negative, huge, painful sides of social media. So I think over time I became timid with my voice because I didn't want to be cancelled, or I didn't want to be dragged as I have before. I didn't want to be pushed into things that I have to explain myself, even when you're understood. I think there's so much of that, and there was just a lot. I was experiencing extremes all the time, and I sit here today, kind of wanting to just start afresh, in the simplicity of it. But I think the reality is it's not that simple. I also moved to Manchester over a year ago, right, in June. And this was so consequential because I was really considering moving to Canada, like really in a place where I'm like, yeah, I think I'm meant to be in Canada. And the Lord tells me to come to Manchester one weekend, and that weekend would kind of go to be the weekend that really changes my life, in terms of I end up being connected to some of the people who I now believe I have a mission with. I got surrounded by a community, and I realized, my goodness, I love Manchester, man. I feel like this is the promised land. And yeah, like, interestingly, so 2 weeks after visiting Manchester, I moved here, and that one weekend, it felt like I was starting university again, and I felt my heart, God showed me the same exact thing, and I felt that same word: I'm putting you in the place, and I'm going to give you a purpose. And if a lot of you know me, right, if you go all the way back, I've spoken about this to some degree. If you listen to my podcast, 5 More Minutes with Josiah, you would have known I've spoken about this idea that, like, when I was in university, when I was in Leicester, when I went through some of the most challenging points of my life, I realized, like, God had given me a word already, and in that season, he didn't spare me from the trials that I went through, but he spared me in them. And over the last year in Manchester, God has, there's been a missional side that's arisen in me, where I've always been a Christian, but now there is a desire to not live life passively, not to live life just amongst, but to live life actively, in which, like, my life has to amount to something. So this whole last year has been such an adventure. I've gone through so much temptation, so much trial. I've made friends. I've lost some meaningful relationships. I've been in a relationship and went through the other side of that relationship, and I've learned so many lessons, and it's been incredible. And I'm in a stage where I want to continue to explore these things. But the huge, and I think the biggest problem is, when I grew a platform and I became a brand, I then started to feel that to some degree I was censored, in the sense that I started to question everything I would say and the result that it would create. And then I became timid. And I was listening to a podcast by Jackie Hill Perry, right? And her and her husband were talking about this idea of what boldness means from the intersection of being a believer, right? The arguable way that we would arguably, like, very simplistically, on a very simple level, we would define boldness by, all right, you know what, like, flip, like, jump out of a plane, that's boldness, or speak to a stranger, that's boldness, and those things are. But actually, when you look in the scripture actually puts boldness in a very unique way. It actually says, it talks about doing something in the face of fright. So boldness in the Bible scripturally is defined by being brave in the face of fear. Arguably, it made me realize I'm a very confident person and I'm fairly bold. But is it boldness if all I'm doing is saying things to people who like what I already say? Or is it boldness if I'm saying what needs to be said in the face of those I'm afraid of, in the face of the environment that doesn't like what I said? And I realized that Josiah back in the day had that tenacity. This Josiah has found timidity. And I took timidity and I don't know, I to some degree confused timidity with humility. And I'm realizing over the last few days, I've realized I can't keep shying away from my platform because I have things to say. However, there's this fear that I'm like, oh my God, if I come back now talking about the depths of what I care about, the different things I care about, like the career challenges, the highs, the lows, but also the faith, which is the thing that engulfs all those things. It gives them meaning. It's like yeast. If I come now and speak about that, like all people are going to ever do, which they always used to do, was, bro, like, you've changed, man. Like, bro, like, fam, you could have been so far, you could have gone so far, like. And I think over time I've allowed my mind to hang on to some hurtful words from people who don't matter, to taunt me into believing that starting again isn't worth it. And yeah, I mean, I've been writing this book called From Scratch. This because my whole life has been riddled, or I guess been marked by an ineffable amount of beginnings, and I just keep starting again. And I'm learning now to be at home in this tent that is pinned down by pegs, and learning to be at peace with that. So yeah, that's where I am right now. And so like, I'm excited over the next few weeks, months, hopefully, if I can just keep going, just to bring you guys into the journey of what God's doing in my life right now, actively. And yeah, just like, let's journey together. And I know that there's a seduction to be this really quick side of the internet. And I just don't have the heart for that. I'm very much like, yo, let's slow down, let's speak, let's talk to each other. And yeah, I mean, I say all this to say, like, I'm rebranding. There's many things going to be changing. My name, of course, now on YouTube is Josiah Hyacinth, which was previously Mr. 200. And I'm trying to bring everything I do together, because it's no longer useful that I'm separate, because I realized that all I do, my gift, and I guess the reason I have this platform was because I did something really simple. I took a camera, I documented what was happening as I grew, as I built things, and as I live. And I think sometimes because of this brand, because of the pressures from outside, you begin to try to package something to deliver something very well and articulated. And in that moment, you begin to sell the very thing that made you stand out. And so I'm simplifying everything. So this channel will change, but you will notice it's actually just the same as it always was, except I'm just like 25 years old. I'm no longer in university. I have new challenges. I miss university, but God is using my life. And I want to document that process of just traveling, seeing the world and experiencing Jesus through everything. That's kind of where I'm at right now. And how that affects career, and, you know, what's happening. Like, do I have a job right now? There's so much to talk about. So I'm just excited to journey with you. And here's one thing I always want to be clear. I think that the pressure of consistency is good because it helps you to scale, which I'm all for. But I think I've also, over this period of not being on YouTube, I've learned how to detach my heart from the need of consistency. And I realize that there's a power when you're no longer trapped in the cycle of consistency. What you can do is you can develop real ideas. Ideas meaning, like, some things take time and you just need time. And I realized that as storytellers, for us to tell incredible stories, we have to find the balance of living life enough to encounter things that awaken our mind, to have developing ideas, to then begin to show them. And I think sometimes we sell ourselves short by trying to be super consistent, and then we end up with nothing meaningful to say. And, you know, one thing about me, and I said this one day, I got canceled one year, and I remember feeling this same thing, that you can't cancel a person who is willing to step down from the platform. This heart that I'm more concerned with being in a space where I stand isn't who I am, nor does where I stand be the height of who I am. I have to be far greater than the platform inside, because the light in me has to be greater than the light outside, unless I will be consumed. And so if you've been a follower, a subscriber, someone who's journeyed with me since I was a kid, I just please keep journeying. And if you haven't subscribed and you're watching this video, please subscribe, watch this, because I would love to grow, and I'd love to do this with you, and also share this with a friend. I mean, there's so much adventure happening, but I just want to bring you to the reality of the story. I no longer want to try to hide some parts where I'm like, I don't want to sound too Christian online, actually, but it's who I am. But yeah, guys, I love you guys. And I guess that's a little bit of my update over the last year. And I think I'm going to go deeply into it each week, a little bit what's going on, what's been happening, and where everything meets each other. But ultimately, my name's Josiah Hyacinth. I'm 25. And this is a documentary of me becoming, of me growing, of me living and me building. And that's all I'm going to do and share with you guys. So yeah, I'm going to speak to you guys soon, and hopefully I'll see you next week. All right, guys. Peace. That was good.